People think that moving to Guadalajara is either a romantic escape or impossibly complicated. It's neither. It's discipline, it's spreadsheets, it's WhatsApp appointments with the Mexican Consulate. It's hauling 6 Costco bins across state lines at 5 a.m. It's border crossings with paperwork in triplicate. It's watching 100 trucks get lit on fire in cartel violence, while your things could possibly be inside one of them. It's still saying, "This is my home." If you've ever wondered what it actually takes to move to Mexico and get Mexican residency, cross the border legally with your belongings, and build a life in Guadalajara, this is the full story. Not the Instagram version, the real one. Joseph Campbell once said, "We must be willing to let go of the life we've planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us." I've carried the idea of Mexico with me for almost 20 years. In college, a friend and I, fueled by journalism dreams, cheap beer, and too much marijuana, had this wild idea. What if we traveled to Mexico for a year, interviewed strangers in bars, drank a different tequila every day, and called it 365 days of tequila? It was reckless. It was romantic. It was probably a great way to either disappear or lose a kidney, but the idea never left. I served in the Peace Corps in Ukraine for 3 years, living in a village and having a wonderful life. I became a teacher, 16 years, ESL, language arts, middle school through high school. I built a life and a career, but the spark remained. In November of 2019, I visited Guadalajara with my husband at the time. The idea came back, louder. I felt a connection to the city and its people, and I thought, this project, this dream, it's possible. Then the pandemic hit. Divorce, job loss, career restart. So instead of leaping blindly, I made a decision. 4 years. I would spend that time to clear my debt, finish my career strong, sell the house I owned, and prepare this move, this change. It wasn't going to be romantic. It was going to be strategic. So I continued on and began working at Thornton Middle School. I made my strategy and did my job well while beginning to plan my exit. In May of 2024, the time had arrived. I resigned from a school I loved. I visited Ukraine one last time to see loved ones there and share my care during the horrible war they continue to face. I hiked nearly 500 miles alone on the Colorado Trail to prepare mentally for what was coming. It was long. It was difficult. It was beautiful. It was inspirational. I needed to trust my body and my mind in the journey ahead. Then, while on the trail, I sold my house, put everything in storage, prepared my dogs, and on the 2nd of September, I arrived in Guadalajara as a tourist. This is important if you're researching how to move to Mexico. You can stay as a tourist for up to 180 days, but it's never guaranteed. And repeated entries raise questions. You cannot rely on border runs forever. I started filming my life here on Pato's Path, based on the suggestion of my former principal, Marty McCarthy. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy, for your inspiration. Then, there were critically important things to do. Study Spanish seriously, build a community, and prepare the foundations to start 365 Days of Tequila as an ethnographic documentary project. Soon, the $270 a month for storage back in Colorado climbed well past $300. Every few months, I would fly back and forth with giant duffel bags that cost $300 per flight in baggage fees. Was it efficient? No. But was it glamorous? Also no. But it bought me time. And time was discipline. If you're Googling how to get Mexican residency as an American, here's the truth. You qualify through either financial solvency or family ties. In my case, I needed to show over $75,000 US in my bank account for over a year. This allows the Mexican government to see that you aren't laundering money here and can actually be financially stable. That time arrived for me in August 2025. So I made an appointment with the Mexican Consulate in Denver via WhatsApp. I brought with me multiple copies of my passport, bank statements, application forms, passport photos, copies of everything that I had, and my Spanish skills that I had been working on for nearly a year. 2 hours later, I walked out with a sticker in my passport. That sticker meant that I had one entry into Mexico to complete the residency process. Once back in Guadalajara, I had 30 days to begin the trámite, or procedure, with immigration. I booked immediately because those appointments can be booked out by 2 to 3 weeks. Immigration in Mexico requires patience. Biometrics, photos, fingerprints, waiting. For example, the photo printer was broken that day. Of course it was. 2 weeks later, I got the call. I picked up my residency card. Planned for this. I had no facilitator, no attorney, no Getting Mexican Residency Facebook group, although I know that this can be helpful. Can you do it alone? Yes, I did. Should everyone? Not necessarily. Do what you're comfortable with, and be careful who you trust. There are scams everywhere. Once approved for residency, I had 6 months to bring my belongings tax-free under a Menaje de Casa, household goods. This is crucial if you're relocating to Mexico. I returned to Denver in November, sold what I could, auctioned what I didn't sell, donated the rest with the help of kind friends and a U-Haul.
Buy stuff.
This reduced my life to 6 yellow Costco bins, 2 boxes of books, and some paintings. Then I started researching international moving companies. Many companies didn't write me back. One that did quoted from Denver to Guadalajara $5,500 for a minimum of £1,000 for things that weren't even worth that much. Another Mexican company from Ciudad Juárez, already crossing the border on my own, quoted me nearly $7,000. That's what we call a gringo tax. Then my friend Ana contacted companies in Spanish and used her name instead of my whitey one. We found a company called Mudanza Nacionales and worked with Aureli Robinson. Suddenly, the quote was $971 US. Same boxes, same route. Interesting. This is where moving to Mexico stops being romantic and becomes careful and logistical strategizing. New strategy. I would rent an SUV in Denver from my favorite company, Sixt, which is easy to get to, based right out of Union Station and a direct shot from the airport. I highly recommend. I would then drive to New Mexico, transfer items to a friend's SUV, cross at Ciudad Juárez, ship from there. But first, the Menaje de Casa paperwork. 4 copies of everything, itemized list in Spanish, model and serial numbers for all electronics, correct forms from the consulate, not random internet versions. Unfortunately, I found that out the hard way. Cost $195. Worth it? For me, yes. Then Friday morning at 8 a.m., first in line at the consulate. Wrong form because I found it online. Consulate staff meeting from 9 to 11:30. Come back later. This is Mexican bureaucracy from the US side. If you're not prepared for and accepting of this, maybe you shouldn't be moving to Mexico. Eventually approved. Then I drove Denver to Socorro, New Mexico. I stayed the night with my brother and his family. Socorro to Las Cruces at 5 a.m. transferred vehicles, and we were off, headed to the border. Crossing at Ciudad Juárez is surreal. El Paso high-rise skyline on one side, the border wall in Ciudad Juárez stretching wide and grounded on the other. The US-Mexico border is not abstract or something imaginary when you're driving toward it with the rest of your things from your former life in the back of an SUV. At 9:30 a.m. on a Saturday, traffic was already flowing. We told guards that we had items to declare. They asked us to pull over. I handed them 3 stamped copies of my approved Menaje list. They glanced, opened the trunk, looked inside, and 2 minutes later said, "Go ahead." That was it. Months of preparation. Less than 5 minutes of inspection. After unloading the bins to Mudanza Nacionales, with people who took care to secure my belongings and itemize each piece, we had some time to explore Ciudad Juárez. We visited the Museo de Juan Gabriel, born Alberto Aguilera Valadez, known also as El Divo de Juárez. Juan Gabriel is one of Mexico's most legendary singer-songwriters. The museum opened in August of 2024. You can't film inside. They bag your phone. You walk through his preserved rooms. You see his ashes, his stage costumes, immersive concert projections. Juan Gabriel sang about longing, belonging, heartbreak, home. Standing there, looking at this beautiful home, between borders, I understood something. Moving to Mexico isn't an escape. It's an identity. We crossed back into the US later that day. Longer line, vendors walking between cars, questions from US Border Patrol, empty SUV. Sunday morning, we hiked the Organ Mountains near Las Cruces. The moon was still visible over the peaks. I felt something settle. All my belongings were now committed to Mexico. There was no halfway point anymore. That's the moment no one talks about in expat YouTube videos. The psychological crossing. I drove back to Denver to close things up. And then I flew home, Guadalajara. When I landed, I walked, and there was peace. Even with recent cartel violence, even with lockdowns, even knowing that over 100 trucks had been set on fire recently, which limited insurance coverage on my shipment. Aureli called yesterday. My belongings have begun their journey. There's a risk. There's uncertainty. But there's also clarity. If you're watching this because you want to move to Guadalajara or Mexico, here's what you need to hear. It's not romantic. It's also not reckless. It's not impossible, it's discipline. Research immigration requirements. Understand financial solvency rules because they change every year. Get correct consulate forms. Prepare for bureaucracy. Expect delays. Budget realistically. Vet moving companies carefully. Learn Spanish. Build community intentionally. Moving to Mexico isn't running away. It's choosing something and building it piece by piece. A year and a half ago, I arrived with 2 dogs and uncertainty. Today, I hold Mexican residency. My belongings are en route. My documentary project, 365 Days of Tequila, continues. Check it out on my other YouTube page. Guadalajara feels like home, not because it was easy, but because I built it. If you're considering relocating to Mexico, living in Guadalajara, or navigating the Mexican residency process, I hope this gives you something real to hold on to. This life is possible, but it's built. One form, one appointment, one border crossing, one disciplined choice at a time, poco a poco. Guadalajara didn't become home because it was easy. It became home because I committed to it. And that's the truth about moving to Mexico. It's not a romantic escape. It's a deliberate construction. This is Pato's Path, an adventure in believing, planning, and organizing while remembering that the life waiting for you won't build itself. If this story caught your interest, hit like, tap subscribe, and follow along as we keep walking this journey together. There's so much more out there.